So I chose to do my concept map as a recipe for successful leadership because I think that all of the different leadership theories and topics that we talked about this semester kind of build off of each other to help create a well-rounded, successful leader. So first we'll look at the ingredients, and I chose the ingredients to be the trait approach, skills approach, behavioral approach, and then the ethics, team, gender, and culture because they're all kind of things that together I think a successful leader needs to have, and then you can use these different things to apply the other leadership theories. So first, the trait approach. The trait approach is leader-centered, and it looks at leadership as though they either have the traits that are desired or they don't. And it does not explain how leaders can improve their traits. It just shows if you have the traits or you don't. So some of the desired traits were self-confidence, integrity, intelligence, determination, and many more. All of the studies came up with different desired traits, but these were some of the main ones that came up in multiple studies. Next is the skills approach. This is also leader-centered, and it looks at the leader's skills and how they can be developed and improved. So it's a little bit different than the trait approach because you can improve your skills in this skills approach, whereas the trait approach looks at it as either you have them or you don't, and you can't improve them. So there's 3 different skills approaches. There's technical, human, and conceptual. And then the skills model looks at having problem solving, social judgment, or knowledge skills. Next is the behavioral approach. This is another leader-centered approach to leadership. The leader's behaviors will change depending on the situation and the appropriate behaviors to have for that situation of leadership. So there's 5 different types. You can be country club, team, middle of the road, impoverished, or authority compliance. And each of those types of leadership just have variations of creating social aspects, so trying to build strong relationships with your followers, or being strictly directive and giving directions and teaching people how to do things and making them do them. So next we have ethics, and ethics is all about it's a leader-centered leadership topic, and it deals with the kinds of values and morals an individual or society finds desirable or appropriate. And then in the ethical chapter, they talked about the different stages. So there's obedience and punishment, individualism and exchange, interpersonal accord and conformity, maintaining the social order, social contract and individual rights, and then universal principles. And as you move through these stages, you start to become ethical, not just because it's the right thing to do, or you start to become ethical because it's the right thing to do, not just because you're going to get in trouble if you aren't ethical. So next we look at team, and creating a sense of team in your followers and your groups that you're leading is really important. And this is not really a leader or follower-centered thing. It's just something that having a good team makes for faster responses to problems or crises that arise, and it's a way to delegate responsibilities to allow for better, faster results. Next we have gender, and this is very leader-centered, and this chapter looked at how women and men lead differently in the way that women are found in more lower level management positions and men are found in higher ones. Even though they don't necessarily have any less education, it's just different responsibilities, different priorities that tend to be associated with each gender. And then it looks at the leadership labyrinth, which is the difference in human capital, prejudice, and gender differences that create or that result in women having lower level management positions and men having higher management positions. And then finally we'll look at culture, and this is leader and follower centered. So each leader and follower has their own culture based on where they grew up and their ethnicity and everything. And each culture has different norms that are regular and normal for them. And so ethnocentrism and prejudice can be a very big thing when dealing with culture. And ethnocentrism is when you think that your culture is the right one and the best one, and you don't take into other cultures' considerations. So it can be very dangerous for leaders to get an ethnocentric view and not take their followers' views into consideration. Next in our recipe, we'll look at the directions. And I chose my directions as the leadership styles that kind of build off each other and help almost build the followers into doing things for their own and on their own and being less leader oriented and more follower oriented. So first we'll get servant leadership, and this is completely leader centered, and it's looks at how leaders put the followers' needs first. So there's 10 characteristics of a servant leader. They have listening skills, their empathy, healing, awareness, persuasion, conceptualization, foresight, stewardship, commitment to the growth of people, and building communities. And then from there we get on to authentic leadership. So this is leader-centered, and it's trying to be a trustworthy and a really real leader so followers can believe in them and they want to follow the leader and not just think they have to. And so I think I chose this after the servant leadership because being a servant leader will help build that trust for the followers to believe you're an authentic leader then. Next is leader-member exchange, and this is looking at leaders and followers equally and the relationships that they build between each other. So this looks at having in-groups and out-groups of people in each overall group. And so the in-groups are people that have stronger relationships with the leaders and may end up having more knowledge and more information and end up having more responsibilities. And then out-groups just kind of show up to work and do what they're told and don't ask questions and don't do anything extra. So you would want to be more part of the in-group because they have better and stronger relationships with their leader. Next is situational leadership, and this is, again, follower-centered, and it's the level of support and direction that the leader gives depending on the follower and the style they're in. So there is 4 different styles. There's delegating, supporting, coaching, and directing. And in each of these styles, the level of support and just overall encouragement being your follower's cheerleader, and then the level of direction you have to give the follower is different, and that's what gives you the 4 different types of leadership style. Next, we have path goal leadership, and this is follower centered. So in this type of leadership, leaders are looking at how they can motivate their followers to achieve their goals on their own. So there's a lot of different behaviors that leaders use in this type of leadership theory, which is directive, supportive, participative, and achievement-oriented. So this is, again, building off of those other leadership theories and starting to look at how we can get the followers to want to do their own tasks by themselves and not need as much help from the leader. Next is adaptive leadership, which is, again, follower-centered, and this is looking at how you can teach your followers to adapt and overcome to different challenges that arise when they're trying to reach their goal. So there's different behaviors that leaders have that help their followers become adaptive. So there's get on the balcony, identify the adaptive challenge, regulate distress, maintain disciplined attention, give the work back to the people, and then protect leadership voices from below. And finally, there's transformational leadership. So this is completely follower-centered, and this is when you build strong connections with your followers and boost their motivation, and the followers end up doing more than they're asked to do to achieve their goal. And so this is what I would think would be the ultimate leadership to be able to accomplish, because your followers are going above and beyond what you even ask them to do and getting the job done. So this is how I decided to make my concept map, just because I thought that the ingredients are kind of different parts of the leadership styles I put in my directions, and I thought that the way I set up my leadership in the directions just kind of build off each other to be the best leader you can be.